Hello, hello, hello. Welcome. Welcome, everyone. It's good to see you guys. Hey, Grace. Hey, Sheil. Thank you for being here to Modern. How you doing, Karen? Hello, Anna. And a very special thank you to Anna for sending me some good information this morning. Although I was up because things got lit. Anybody that's been paying attention to the news today or starting late last night here in America, oh, we've been watching shenanigans going on with Mr. Sean Combs, aka P. Diddy, Puffy, Puff Daddy, whatever you want to call him. I'm going to call him Diddy, okay? Because did he? I mean, really, with everything that's going on, that's my big question. It's the question of the day. It's the question of the year. It started last year. Did he? Did he? Did he? Hey, Sean, how you doing, love? Anyway, we got a lot to cover today. Um, and hopefully my sound is good and the imaging is coming in good. I tried a few different things and I'd like to know what y'all think about it. So like if you get around to it, just let me know. But let's uh let's start. Who we're talking about? Introducing, if you didn't know, Sean Combs, aka P. Diddy, Puff Daddy, the only man with charges that we're going to be talking about tonight. Well, the focus of our true crime update tonight, everything P. Diddy. Now, I have had many of you come to me since the allegations last year started saying, are you going to cover, are you going to cover, are you going to cover P. Diddy? Um, I'm hoping I have audio. Can somebody please let me know that Mousy is the only one who doesn't have audio? Because I thought it was okay. You guys said it sounded great. Sound is great according to Shill. I think you need to go in and come back out again. Okay, Mouse. I hope you work it out because I think it's you. I don't think it's me because they say they can hear me. So, but you can't hear me talking to you. So there you go. Anyway, as of last year, there was a civil suit they dropped. And after that, a whole bunch of stuff happened, and everybody was in my DMs going, "This is a mess. When you going to cover this? When you going to cover this?" And I kept saying, "It's a mess." I have done quite a few assault cases, lack of consent cases, even towards minors, and some terrible things. And I was coming off with even a couple of children's cases, which are murder cases involving children with their moms and their stepmoms. And like, I was just not in the right place. I was like, nah, I don't think so. If it go, and this is what I kept telling everyone, if it goes to criminal charges, I'll cover it. So I kept my eye on it and I kept abreast of it. And sure enough, there was a raid a few months back. And there was the rumor and the statements that there was a federal investigation going on. Big, big investigation going on involving sexual trafficking, racketeering, what we call here on the the East Coast. Here we call them, thug business practices. Yeah, that's what here Mr. Combs is quite the reputation for. Um, and I live on the East Coast, and Sean Combs is from New York. My 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 aunt-in-law actually taught him, you know, in his private school. Yeah, he came from a fairly decent background, not really a thug. They weren't well off, but he did go to private school. He went to paid Catholic school. Yes, he did. And well, he's always had quite the reputation as an interpreter, somebody who didn't really follow the rules, kind of like, made his way. Um, he's quite influential. He was always able to organize, and all of that. But that's all besides the point because we want to stick to the facts today, right? Because that's what you guys like about this channel. We're going to stick to the facts. We're going to talk a little bit about what's going on. Well, basically, last night this hit Twitter from the U.S. District Attorney, the Southern District of New York. Mr. Damian Williams posted that earlier in the evening, federal agents had arrested Sean Combs based on a sealed indictment filed by the Southern District of New York, and we expect to move to unseal the indictment in the morning, and we'll have more to say at that time. So they took him into custody. Okay. That grand jury, of course, was private. It's an ongoing federal investigation. Like I said, sex trafficking, sexual assault is also one of the major things that has been talked about in the indictment, and other criminal activities, which during the indictment you will learn what they include. And boy, they are very specific. It came after his properties in Beverly Hills in Florida had been raided um, by federal agents last March on the 25th. And, you know, his sons were there. There was a lot of hoopla about how they busted him with guns. They didn't raid him any different than they raid anybody else. I remember all the hoopla when the Logans got arrested, like got raided, not arrested, but got raided, and they were like finding guns and stuff like that. They went in there in full gear with guns and all, just like they do. I mean, it's not like they knock on the door and say, "Can I come in?" It is supposed to be a raid, which means nobody knows about it. You don't get an invite. They go there, pound on your door, and go in. You either open that door quick or they bust it down. In most cases, they just bust it down. Okay. But you know, they said that everybody was taken out because there was guns on the property. Everybody was taken out, hands behind their back, and sat on the front lawn. They weren't going to get shot out or anything. But my point is that nothing really happened during that actual raid that was unusual from anything. But sure enough, the Combs team went out there and tried to make it like a whole big, like they're persecuting him, you know, because he's so big, you know, because they don't want to see him make it, you know, and all of that, which I just poo-pooed all of that. And I'm not even going to put those articles or disseminate any more of that information because I really just thought it was ridiculous. Okay. This is Mr. Damian Williams, the U.S. District Attorney for the Southern District in New York. And he did a press release today. Okay. And he did his conference on the charges. And I'm going to go and pull you a nice link to a video that was really nice about that. Actually, it was just on their channel. They actually have a channel. And this was the actual press release today based on the charges. Okay. They held him overnight, and he had his arraignment today in New York. Okay. And that's what the hoopla was. There was channels, Law and Crime. I like Jesse Weber from Law and Crime. I listen to him. I like his voice. I think he's he's entertaining, but he also like asks really good questions. He pulls in good experts. He speaks about legally about the facts. You know, he's got some history there with law that's pretty interesting. And I just like his take on it. And he was on and off for about 8 hours today almost. So it was very, very interesting. It was very, very interesting. But this is directly from Damian Williams. This is the press junket that he did before. This was before the arraignment earlier in the day. Okay. There's quite a few others, but let's just get to it. Okay, so I'm going to introduce you to the prosecuting attorney, who is federal. Okay, this is a federal investigation. Okay, coming out of the Southern District, their federal court. There will not be live camera. We will not be actually able to stream any of this, but we are getting the documentation. They did unseal the indictment today to make it public for the charges. And of course, also for their detention memo and things like that. So we have a lot to talk about. But let me also just tell you that for this case, P. Diddy has a defense attorney. Sean Combs has hired Mark Anafilo, and he took last night he was out there. And he's saying that Sean Combs knew the charges were coming. He'd already relocated to New York in anticipation of the arrest. They knew about the grand jury. They've been in touch with them. There's a lot of information going back and forth that we're going to get to. I was actually surprised at how well they were trying to maneuver this, because what they were trying to prevent is an actual arrest and detainment. And I'll show you why. But this is Mark Agnafilio. I do not know his assistant's or his partner's name there, his law partner's name there. But this was outside. This picture was actually taken after the presser, not after the arraignment. Okay. But he did release a statement last night for Sean. He said, "We are disappointed with the decision to pursue what we believe is an unjust prosecution of Mr. Combs by the U.S. Attorney's Office. Sean Diddy Combs is a music icon, self-made entrepreneur, loving family man, and proven philanthropist who has spent the last 30 years building an empire, adoring his children, and working to uplift the Black community. He is an imperfect person, but he is not a criminal. To his credit, Mr. Combs has been nothing but cooperative with his investigation, and he voluntarily relocated to New York last week in anticipation of these charges. Please reserve your judgment until you have all the facts. These are the acts of an innocent man with nothing to hide, and he looks forward to clearing his name in court." All well and done. He's earned his paycheck. I will say that. I have a few things to say about like that statement, but I think I'll reserve them for your opinions later. Okay. To counter that, yes, to counter that, in their detention memo, prosecutors say Combs repeatedly engaged in violence towards his employees and others. In reference, in December 2011, Combs was involved in a kidnapping of someone at gunpoint during a break-in. Multiple witnesses, police reports, and other records corroborate this incident. 2 weeks later, Combs' allies set fire to a vehicle by slicing open the car's convertible top and dropping a Molotov cocktail inside. Police and fire department reports document the arson, and multiple witnesses heard Combs brag about his involvement, stated the prosecutors. I'm telling you, the prosecutors went all in, all hog when it comes to the detention. And as evidence, here's the detention memo. Federal prosecutors wrote out from the Department of Justice a 16-page letter to Judge Tarnowski, who is in charge of this case right now, and had to do the arraignment. Prior to arraignment, stated after the arrest to the judge as to why absolutely in no terms do they want Sean Combs to be released from custody before trial. They say they've got a strong background. They say he uses violence, threats, and coercion. They say his crimes are abhorrent because they involve sex trafficking and abuse, documented abuse by more than one complainant and witness through the grand jury, more than one, okay? And that he regularly organized this, involved people, coerced, threatened them, would often have an absolute whole procedure on how to make people stay silent if anybody acted up, how to get his way. They're saying that this was very manipulative, this is very dangerous, and that in order to preserve the witnesses and their safety, he should not be allowed out because he would be able to actually, even in the confines of his home, able to organize his network to abuse, coerce, and intimidate witnesses and those involved in the case. They went whole ham in. And when you read this, like, it's explicit. Okay. They get case after case after case of where he has done this. They also indicate that this man has a drug problem, that drugs are involved in everything. They also indicate that even though he has a drug problem, they even when they went in March, they found firearms everywhere in the home, registered and unregistered. Okay, and not kept safely as they should in New York under certain guidelines. Okay, these were not just your regular handguns. We're talking AR-15s, big round magnums, large capacity drum magazines. I mean, wow. All of this stuff that was seized in 2024. They also had documentation that Combs has bribed witnesses and further obstructed justice all the way back to 1999. They documented case after case of where he just thinks the rules don't apply to him. I have never seen such a strong sentencing. I mean, not sentencing, but detainment letter to a judge. The day of the arraignment, like it was like his propensity for violence. They said would be you would be unable to control that even under house arrest. That was their opinion. Okay. Then, well, of course, though, we also have, you know, the opposite side, okay, where, in preparation, for the arrest, the defense team, Mark Agnafilo and Sean Combs and several other attorneys put together a package for the judge also that says, we understand this is serious and you have to do it. So we'll give you $50 million and we'll agree to house arrest. And like in anticipation of this, we've already given up our passport. All of these family members, as you can see, they're all the females, not the three boys. None of the three boys are listed there as giving up their passport. Like that's all the females in his family, Oh, they don't seem to be the threat. None of them have charges, although one of his sons does have an assault charge on him right now. Not a criminal charge, but a civil suit in a claim and an accusation. Okay. And there were several of them there, They they were at the house during the raid. Okay. But I don't see the names listed there with the passports. Anyway, he's a flight risk. Basically, the prosecution says he's a flight risk, but the defense is trying to prove that he's not, of course. Of course, they don't want him perceived as a flight risk because he doesn't want to stay in jail until trial. Okay. Not a pleasant place to be, and we all know the wheels of justice are not exactly fast in some cases. Okay. This investigation has been going on 1 year. Yeah. And, well, I guess, they're just going to push hard to get him out. But it really, well, all I can tell you is it didn't really play with the judge. Okay. This is our judge for this case, Judge Robin Tarnowski. She's magistrate judge. Okay. And she no surprise here, she denied bail. Sean Combs is sitting in jail tonight, and he's going to have to stay there, okay, for now, okay. In deciding to deny Combs bail, the judge was very significantly concerned in regards to this long letter she got from the prosecution, who also did a presentation and oral arguments for the judge during. And of course, defense was there too, and Sean Combs was there. And there are some pictures from some. I will actually post a link to the illustrations in the description for later for you if you have not found them. But he looked quite shaken from all reporting that's coming from outside, from inside of the courthouse. He seemed very concerned. Drinking from his water bottle, not like really like listening intently, trying to pay attention, but he did look overwhelmed and quite concerned about the whole process. Okay. She was very concerned about his substance abuse and what appears to be anger issues, which we will go into in a little bit. Yeah, I mean, we've got history here. Unfortunately, I'll have to admit, I know way too much about Sean Combs. I've lived here on the East Coast my whole life, and he's been a topic of conversation and for a long, long time, almost as much as Donald Trump. But, yeah. Oh, by the way, the first thing that I saw on Twitter last night after arrest was multiple people posting pictures of Donald Trump with Sean Combs. Like that means something. Like, please, people, just stop. I mean, if it was a concern every time you took a picture with somebody, I mean, damn, y'all getting ridiculous. Like, I mean, it was flooded on Twitter. It was crazy. I had to walk away for a while. It was just ridiculous. But anyway, she's concerned about those anger issues. I don't blame her. His continual substance abuse issues are absolutely of concern. And she did try to consider alternate methods. They said that he would wear a device, he would stay under house arrest. They're offering $50 million and give up the passport so not to have a flight risk. But her concern is this is a crime that happens behind closed doors, even when pretrial services is monitoring. And she's talking about the coercion. There were plenty of witnesses every time, and that never stopped Diddy from assaulting anybody. He just worked on covering it up with money or threats or other issues. Okay? The prosecution, my interpretation of that statement she made is that the prosecution did a hell of a job laying out his past history, and well documented it and brought enough for her to say, oh yeah, we got a problem here. And apparently they do. Okay. Sean Combs was charged back in 1998 and sentenced to anger management class. And well, some of us might remember who are old enough. In 1999, he was acquitted of gun charges following a nightclub shooting. Remember the whole "I'm dating J-Lo" and like J-Lo, hey, put the gun in your purse, and then his friend actually took the blame for it and went to jail. And then while he was in jail, admitted that he was coerced into this actual confession so that Puffy didn't have to go to jail. That's how he got acquitted. But anyway, in 2019, which is a little more recent for some of our younger viewers here, an ex-girlfriend, Gina Holmes, spoke to a blogger alleging emotional and physical abuse during her relationship with Combs, but no legal case was ever filed. And I'll bring you back to 1999 when he was dating J-Lo. Oh my God, J-Lo. Sorry, Jenny. Anyway. She actually recently has come up and said the 2 years in the relationship that she spent with Sean were the most tumultuous, controlling, and confusing that she's ever had. People wonder if maybe she was also in an abusive relationship, but she has never used that word. Okay. I have not found anything where she said so. But talking about controlling and emotionally confusing, and it was like a roller coaster and the ups and downs, well, we can all make our own conclusions. But these are all allegedly. Remember, these are the first criminal charges to be filed. And he's not in court yet. He's not guilty. But damn, do we have a lot of talk about when it comes to how we got here? How the heck did we get here? Besides what I know about his alleged criminal activity since all the way back to the early 1900s. But, hey, what do I know? I'm just from New Jersey. Well, where it started officially, kind of here, in this scenario with these alleged charges that we have, these new criminal charges, we go back to November last year when Cassandra Cassie Ventura, his ex-girlfriend, who he was in a relationship for 10 years, okay, she filed a lawsuit alleging horrific attacks and abuse, alleging incidents of non-consensual relations, physical assault, between 2007 and 2018. She described a cycle of abuse, violence, and sex trafficking after being lured into an ostentatious, fast-paced, and drug-fueled lifestyle, allegedly designed to keep her compliant. Sean Combs settled the case within 1 day. It didn't take 24 hours for him to shut her up. Now, there was talk that since they broke up, she had been getting a monthly payment from him anyway, and that the reason she filed this claim is that he had stopped paying. And she said, well, he called her bluff, and he said, well, you're never going to put that out. She put it out. Now, she withdrew it immediately, but she put it out. Now, they did make arrangements within 24 hours. There was agreement of some kind of settlement, and it is not to be disclosed. Both of them agreed to keep that arrangement private between themselves. But because she actually laid it all out, and it was fire. It was everywhere. I do have the cases. I will be linking them for those of you that are in the Discord. I will make a file with all the civil cases in it, and I will put it on the ones that are available on a Google Drive. So message me somehow, some way, if you want all of those cases. I'm not going to go over every single civil case. I know I'm fucking raking did it, and a couple of other good channels have it all out there for review. And I've been saying all along to check them out because I wasn't going to cover them, but they do pertain here because it was actually the filing of this civil suit that got eyes, more eyes, I should say. It is my personal opinion that the eyes were already there. I live here on the East Coast, and I know that he's had several investigations. I know that his name comes up a lot with things that are organized, compliant, or troublesome in the area. Okay. He's relocated between Miami and Beverly Hills, but he still has a huge reputation here on the East Coast with New York. Okay, where he's from. Right. His name gets thrown around a lot. Hey, Mrs. C, good to see you. You know, how dare you all interrupt Claire? Seriously. What are they interrupting me with now? They're trying to do a Diddy Epstein comparison. Yeah, I think they were on the Twitter last night, and they absolutely were. I do agree. And I'm just checking out some of the messages now. I'm glad that you caught up there, Juju. And Mrs. Cassandra, I'm glad you're here. Rekkr, it's nice to see you. I might need you, like, if you're listening, for some facts, because we're going to go in deep on this one. All right. So I believe that this is what brought the public eyes to the sex trafficking part of these allegations and everything. I think there has always been rumors about the racketeering, about him doing thug style business in his industry. He was a big mogul. He was an influencer, not only in music and rap. There was all that issue, but this goes back far. We've also talked about the Tupac connection when I'm doing the Keefe D, when I'm doing Dwayne Davis's case, which I'm still following. I've got a slight update. I'm only going to hint at some of it here. Well, let's just say, like, this is where it started with the sex trafficking, where it started to get a little serious. That civil suit had so many details in it that people got to read out, you know. Yep, you got an ad while I was reading? Yeah, okay. Okay, yeah. They've changed some things on YouTube on me there, Mrs. Cassandra, but thanks for telling me. Thank you. Hopefully it wasn't too long. All right. When I talk about this is where it started with Kathy Ventura, who settled, and she's been quiet, except for like some other things did happen that we're going to get to. When I talk about a myriad of civil cases, like, I'm not kidding. Look at that, okay? What I've listed for you here is the name of the person that filed the suit, the date that they filed it, and the years that it kind of goes back to. I will tell you that they all have something in common: assault, coercion. Some of them mention the sex trafficking. Some of them mention being drugged into compliance. Some of them mention threatening, especially when we get down to the last one, Dawn Richard, who was part of a band and has been a friend and worked with him for 20 years, is now said, I'm done. He threatens, he coerces, he like threatened my father. Like, her lawsuit mentions interactions with her father, her being afraid because he was trying to influence her to do something, and he didn't like the answer when she said no, and she felt threatened. So she called her father, and he threatened the father, and he then told her, he said, you don't call your father again unless you're in the hospital. He's quite the nice man, isn't he, Mr. Combs? He definitely needs some classes in personal interactions for those that work with you. And she was a collaborator, not even an employer. They were in a group together as writer, songwriter, producer, trying to do some stuff on his album, which Rodney Jones also put claims in about how he was coerced to be part of a what was the words that were used? Treating him like he was the party favor for Cuba Gooding Jr. Yeah, no, I'm not kidding. Like, he literally put claims in his civil lawsuits that said that P. Diddy was grooming him to have relations with one of his friends to get him used to it. And then telling Rodney Jones that, like, you just need some drugs, like, it'll help you, like, it's going to happen one way or another. This is good for you. This is good for your career. And Mr. Jones is like, oh, hell no. Yeah, these are the statements that are being said. Allegedly, P. Diddy did all of this. Allegedly. We have to keep saying it. I mean, I wish I had a button that I could just push that says allegedly. I think I'll create one because I'm going to need one, especially with this case. Okay. The first case that came out after Cassie Venturi was Joey Dickerson Neal. She filed that in November. Her claim goes all the way back to 1991, along with one by Jane Doe, who says that she was assaulted by more than one person with Diddy. In that she believes they gave her a drink that was drugged because she doesn't remember if it was like December or January, like 1990, 1991, December, January. Like she doesn't remember the exact date. There's also another Jane Doe who was a minor at the age of 17, and this could be a problem for Diddy. This was filed in December of last year for an incident that she says that she was gang assaulted with Diddy at the age of 17 in 2003. Then there was Rodney Jones's case, the producer who worked on his last album. He filed that in February of this year. And this is one of the more recent incidences because he said everything just happened in 2023. Crystal McKinney, another one, filed in May of May of this year for allegations of what happened to her in 2003. April Lampros goes all the way back to 1995 through 2001. She had a 4 to 5 year relationship that she said was constantly coerced and controlled, abused, threatened. It's pretty lit. No, she filed that in May. Adria English files another one that says from 2004 and 2009 she was also in a coerced sex trafficking relationship with P. Diddy, and she filed that in July. Dawn Richards from Danity Kane, she filed this September, just last week, for allegations going all the way back to 2004 when she met him. And she lists a myriad of complaints against him, although they are not as assaulting as the rest. They do show a pattern of coercion, of intimidation, of how he actually retaliates and racketeers his way through these situations. All of these cases were used without the person's name, incidents cited for by the prosecution. And because you can see, if you just look at the years, there's history there. We're not talking about somebody got mad last week because they broke up with somebody and they're a bad person. How do all of these people have the same experience? Now, granted, I've been here before. February 2nd, quite a few years ago, 16 people came out and made statements against Marilyn Manson, and they all said the same kind of thing. The difference is those 16 people didn't file suits. Those 16 people didn't file independent suits. A couple of months here, a couple of months there, a couple of months there. No, they just all came out and did like a media blitz, all on the same day, kind of organized and structured. So, like, I was being a little bit cautious. And one of the reasons I didn't want to actually cover the civil suits individually or even all together was because I was very suspicious of that. I mean, after all, this is a high-powered man. He's really come up in the world. He has a lot of control. He probably has a lot of enemies. Who knows? Somebody could have organized all this against him. But when it comes from an ex-girlfriend who has a 10-year history, who then later has proof in a hotel like CNN, and let me drop you that one. I'm not going to play the video. I'll drop it for you. P. Diddy was caught on camera at a hotel actually kicking and treating his then girlfriend, Cassie Ventura, horribly, absolutely horribly. Caught on film. They say he extorted people to hide it for the longest period of time, but it was leaked, last year by CNN, actually in May, not even last year, this year, by CNN. And he just caught dead to rights. Caught dead to rights. There is no doubt on that video that is Sean Combs. There is no doubt on that video that is Cassie Ventura trying to escape without her shoes and just a little bit of her belongings from the hotel that they were staying in. Okay. And that when he discovered she wasn't in bed, he ran from the room with just a towel on him and beat and dragged her down the hall. It is horrible to watch. I'll give you a trigger warning. This way I'm not posting it. I will give it to you. I will be linking all of these clips and everything into the video after in the description. I just didn't want to do it ahead of time, but I will after. Now, this prompted Diddy for the first time because through all of the accusations, through all of the multitude of accusations throughout his career, it's always, I didn't do it. I look forward to proving myself in innocence in court. This is a false. They just want money. These are false claims. This is a frivolous lawsuit. That's been his status quo. And then he took the Instagram the day that clip appeared from CNN. There was no denying it. It was out there. Boom. He had to face it. A very contrite P. Diddy took to Instagram, said he'd been working on it. He knows he's got anger management issues, and he's been in therapy, and he regrets his behaviors. That was a long time ago. There's not going to deny it. It's in his face. And I say, yada, yada, yada. I mean, great. He apologized. I mean, he had to. He had to, right? I mean, of course. That is what he needed to do. And I'm glad he did it. I'm glad for Cassie Ventura that he publicly apologized and said he knows he has an issue. I think it's a little too late. But, I mean, she did just have to threaten you with a lawsuit to get you to keep your promise about payments and stuff for the long-suffering medical bills and physical issues that she has based on your 10-year relationship. You're going to go back on your word, and people got to do what they got to do. So I am glad that he did apologize. Do I think it actually means anything? My personal opinion, no. I don't know. How do you guys feel? Does that actually mean anything in the big picture? I really don't think so. Considering it's the only apology out there, and we've got like 10 civil suits and now criminal charges. So, yeah, it doesn't really mean anything. For those of you that want to read the detention menu memo, here is the link that the prosecution put out. Now, there are some other things about P. Diddy that maybe you haven't heard. Well, it's not just allegations. I mean, my internet is acting up. Hopefully, I still have signal. Please, do I still have signal? It looks like I do. Please, oh gosh, hoping so. Let's think. Yeah, just a PR apology. And I'd have to agree. I really would. Okay. Basically, I heard a little robot, but you are loud and clear now. Okay, thank you. Because it did freeze, and I didn't know whether to finish or not. It was like making me crazy. It really was. I never know what to do that when the signal goes yellow, whether to just stop. I hate, guys, I hate dead air. It's like killer of YouTube, right? But anyway. Oh, good. Okay, let's just see. So he did the apology, and I agree with Juju. It was more like a PR thing. It was kind of like expected, It was it was just basically what needed to be done. A little too late, for Cassie as far as I'm concerned. But hey, she has her relationship with Sean Combs, and she did what she needed to do. She settled that lawsuit. She pulled it, but not before a lot of other people decided perhaps they should file also. Um, she did give many people the strength to actually come forward. I'll grant her that. She did. She absolutely did give everyone the strength to come forward. But now I've got one that I want to talk to you about that's a really a little bit of a kicker, because there's another lawsuit that was filed by a man named Derrick Lee Cardello-Smith, who's no saint. I do need to tell you, he's in jail right now in Michigan, convicted sexual assault, robbery. He's got a rap sheet as long as I am tall, and he's serving like 75 years to life. Okay, but he's quite the litigator, and he has been involved in a couple of other suits. But he filed suit on P Diddy for some transactions. He says he knows them. He says they were in a business deal. He says they were working together, and that he owes him some money. And he actually started by filing a temporary restraining order on P. Diddy in regards to the lawsuit for being treated wrongly, for assault, and some other things that he said that happened, but mostly for these business transactions. So he was going to court, okay, and there was a virtual hearing, and he was going to court, and he had made a motion to the judge for a temporary restraining order to stop P. Diddy from selling his home, because that was going to be used for any judgment in his lawsuit. And he like he was the only one. All these other lawsuits out there asking for money, nobody else did this. This man in prison in Michigan filed the lawsuit, and it was just recently, this hearing in July. And he just filed in June. This hearing in July virtually, or actually it was in August. They actually brought the case forward just recently. Goes before the judge. He gets a temporary restraining order. He explains the whole business deal to her and everything like that. Come to light, he shows the judge, and she sees the certification date. P. Diddy was actually served, appropriately according to the judge and according to the statement that Derrick Lee Cardello made in the hearing, in the virtual hearing. But they never responded. Sean Combs or his team never acknowledged the lawsuit, never showed up for any of the hearings, never sent anything in. So the judge was granting the temporary restraining order. And so I watched the video on it. Okay. And apparently during it, the man brings up that Pete Diddy has actually come to visit him at the jail and offered him money to settle this lawsuit, out of court. He says he was visited in jail. Now, I'm thinking when I watch, well, there's got to be a jail record of this. Like, the judge just believes it. Okay. She says, oh, he was there? Like, after you filed? And so the judge, reasonably, is thinking, well, he knows about the lawsuit. He chose not to answer. She went forward and entered a summary judgment of $100 million. $100 million based on the complaint that this guy made. She did still file the TRO. Okay. And then they're supposed to come back sometime like now in September. Like, they're supposed to go to trial, but they didn't hear from P. Diddy. But lo and behold, 3 days after that virtual hearing, all of a sudden P. Diddy responds with frivolous lawsuit. This guy's a career criminal. I never met the man. I have never been to the jail. Now Derrick Lee Cardello-Smith had already laid out in his accusations with the judge that, of course, P. Diddy was going to say that because he bribes the judge, he bribes the guards, and he bribes the authorities at the prison, and this, that, and the other thing. Now, whether or not his actual lawsuit is valid, I have no idea. I have my opinion. I think it's crazy, but I just found it quite humorous that Combs just decided not to show up as if it was going to go away, and this actual career criminal filed enough appropriate paperwork for a judge to actually side with him. And oh my god, and when you actually hear the the video on the whole thing, You got to watch it. That's Jesse Weber explaining the whole, like, it's actually like, you hear the whole thing going on, but it's just hysterical that now he's going to argue like back about it because it's $100 million. It just got done deal. And actually, Jesse Weber said that when he read the guy's motions, which I didn't get to read yet, I'm trying to get a hold of them. They're out of Michigan. But just because I think it would be a hysterical read. I mean, it really doesn't matter now. I do believe a lot of it will get overturned. First of all, he says he wasn't properly served. They're going to have to go in that. Then there's the issue of jurisdiction. And then there's also the issue that this man is claiming that he was attacked and assaulted in the 1999 era, and that's like well beyond the statute of limitations in Michigan for that type of crime. But all of these, but here's the other part of it. All of these counterclaims of P. Diddy and these like reasons to get the case thrown out should have been filed before that virtual hearing. You should have showed up to the judge. You should have had respect for the court to show up and actually make these arguments. It would have gone a little bit better. Now it could go either way, the way I see it, but I'm not a lawyer. But yeah, just a little more. When I told you there was a lot about this, like I wasn't kidding. There is a lot about the P. Diddy case. The tie-in with Tupac's murder, Keefe D stating that P. Diddy basically, he has said over and over again that P. Diddy had basically paid him for that murder. That was contracted for hire. Okay. And now I'm going to give you an article that I'm not going to read to you because I'm going to cover it when I do Keefe D. But basically, it's being stated that the New York prosecution team, the New York investigative team, the federal investigators on these criminal charges for P. Diddy have been working with Las Vegas in Keefe D's case and getting information. And that recently, the prosecutors in the Las Vegas case filed 180-page documentation of the evidence they have. And Sean Combs was mentioned over 72 times. I kid you not. That's an awful lot of mention. That's an awful lot of mention for an innocent man. But innocent until proven guilty. I understand this is all alleged. But another thing, speaking of mentions in regards to this, is some of you may not be aware, but I'm a little bit of a rap fan, and Rekkr is a big Eminem fan, and we were listening to a remix of one of his songs that just dropped like last week, and it was called Fuel Remix. And I'm going to drop you the link to the video because he went in and redid his part about P. Diddy and basically blames P. Diddy in this rap for Tupac's murder and even Biggie's. But, that's just a rap song. I just thought, even more. But to contribute to the rumor mill, which I don't normally do, but there's so much about P. Diddy, and I'm just trying to give you like why all of this is against P. Diddy, like right now. There's one other video I'm going to share with you, and that is from Trap La Ross, okay? And it's in regards to something you might not be aware of. Maybe Mrs. Cassandra is. But P. Diddy is involved with the baby mama of 50 Cent. And he has been done with this woman, 50 Cent has, for a long time. But he has had a beef with P. Diddy for a very long time. And this video actually explains where it's coming from, because you're going to see a lot of statements from this rapper 50 Cent about P. Diddy. And I just wanted you to have a little background as to where it's all coming from. Basically, the woman, the baby mama, is actually indicated in the Rodney case, actually said to be one of those that P. Diddy uses for sex trafficking. He hires her to come do sex parties, what they call freak-offs, which is part of the indictment. A serious part of the indictment here is explaining how these freak-offs went. And, part of P. Diddy's statements for defense during the actual arraignment today were that what we do in home, like having sex, is not illegal. Having sex parties is not illegal. A prosecution is putting back that when you have to drug people, threaten people, coerce people to do these things, well, that's when it becomes illegal, and that's when it becomes trafficking. When you are coercing and intimidating and forcing people to do things against their will, for fear of retaliation, for fear of families, for fear of loss of income, for fear of loss of reputation, for fear of loss of like getting ahead in the industry, or just drugging them against their will, which several of the civil cases are involved around him actually being told no and then being drugged, the person being drugged, and he's like, I'm going to do it anyway. Like one way or another, you're either going to consent or we're going to do it without your consent. It's like a no-win situation, the way it's being laid out, you know? So the prosecution is going out of their way to do a very good job of just saying the difference between just having a sex party, okay? They're just having a sex party and actually, crossing the line into racketeering and enterprise. A good part of the indictment, which I'll bring up next and send you a copy of. The first thing I'm gonna do is also give you Jesse Weber's Law and Crime from today, which has not only the interview, the statement from the U.S. Attorney's Office, but also the statements after for the arraignment, and also the reading of the indictment and his opinions on it when the charges got released, because the indictment was sealed last night. It didn't get unsealed until this morning. And then he also reads over the detainment agreement. For those of you that don't like to actually read this stuff and just want to hear a lawyer's view on it, Jesse Weber's video went on for law and crime like all day, like here and there. And they did do the live stuff in between when they could, including the attorney of Agnifo's statement after the arraignment. Okay. And they are definitely appealing the no bond. Okay, they are definitely doing a bond appeal. They want a hearing. They want to appeal to the judge that was not fair, and they're going to try to get him out on some kind of house arrest or whatever. But he definitely is talking about appeal. He's definitely talking about P. Diddy being innocent until actually proven guilty. Like you said in the release, he's a decent man, right? He's a decent man. Yeah, he actually sit down with a straight face. Okay. All right. I am going to look at some parts of the actual indictment, because how hard that they went in was spectacular. Absolutely spectacular. Okay, it's only 14 pages. The first part that caught my eye that I thought was rather entertaining is that, it's coming out of New York when they have to list all his acronyms. Okay. They list him as Puff Daddy, P. Diddy, Diddy, PD, and actually his East Coast name of Love. Yes. Sean Combs is known as Love. Okay. But count one is not the sex trafficking. Count one is actually racketeering conspiracy. Now they go on for several pages here, and they presented all this to the grand jury charge. Okay, they withheld the grand jury. They brought all the evidence in. There were witnesses. There are multiple people that are involved, some of them in these civil suits, and it is said that Cassie Ventura is one of the witnesses cooperating with the actual investigation. I don't know if she went to the grand jury. That hasn't come out. Remember, all of this is sealed. There's no way to read the affidavits or to know who was there. It's been speculated here and there. There's quite a few good articles on the timelines and the histories, okay, on each of the individual civil cases, especially the one that was just filed by Dawn Richards, which goes over 20 years of just not so much the assault, but just the mental abuse, the intimidation in the situations that made her uncomfortable, that kind of lay out a pattern For me, it was a soft touch kind of civil suit, the Dawn Richards one. I was like, why are you filing this? Like how are you going to say to a judge that, or a jury that you stayed for 20 years when this guy just kept hurting your feelings and making you do stuff in regards to business that you didn't want to do or showing up and stuff. But there was no actual violation of her personal space too much, except for intimidation. He was threatening. There are several incidences there where she backs up other things that happened to other girlfriends of Sean Combs, things she witnessed, in particular with Cassie Ventura, and with his other girlfriend who has passed on. Leaving a recording session with bruises on her face and crying. So she pretty much could be doing testimony also as a witness to some of the things in collaboration of the events, so that they're not here, they're not hearsay if you actually see these things. Okay. Hey, Fish Nerd. I'm sorry if I did not say hi to anybody else who has come in. I've been kind of, focusing. But anyway, they lay out that the defendant abused, threatened, coerced women and others around him to fulfill his sexual desires, protect his reputation, and conceal his conduct. To do so, Combs relied on employees, resources, and influence of the multifaceted business empire that he led and controlled, creating a criminal enterprise whose members and associates engaged and attempted to engage in, among other crimes, sex trafficking, false kidnapping, arson, bribery, and obstruction of justice. Okay, they're serious. Okay, that's just the first paragraph. It goes on, and I'm not going to bore you. It goes on to lay it out. But the reason that I'm showing you this, and hoping that you may even want to read it, is that it actually lays out how at risk his whole empire is. People are saying that, well, he's done. Okay, he done. He's not going to come back from this at all. That's what they're saying. Now, whether that be true or not, I don't know. But it does sound really bad when you're saying that not only does he promote and go and do all of this to become this big successful business, which he was. He's got millions. He's successful. He does. He's got an empire. Okay. But that he uses his own empire for ill-gotten gains. He uses it in an illegal manner to coerce and to do sex trafficking and to just for his personal desires. Thug business style, like I said, doing business the thug way. They say that he is widely known and on numerous occasions from at least 2009 and continuing for years. He has assaulted women, among other things, by striking, punching, dragging, throwing objects, and kicking. These assaults were at times witnessed by others and included one instance at the Los Angeles Hotel in or about March of 2016, the Cassie Ventura clip from the hotel that was recently released. It was later publicly reported where we all saw him kick, drag, and throw a vase at a woman as she was attempting to leave. When hotel security staff intervened, Combs attempted to bribe the staff member to ensure silence. Combs' violence was also not limited to these women. It extended to his employees, witnesses to his abuse, and others. Okay. Then they go and they outline, his success, his leadership, his how he built his empire. Okay. All of the ongoing organization. Okay. But they keep coming back to the fact that he uses it in an illegal manner. Okay. The purpose of Combs' enterprises, including the following: operating a global business in the media, entertainment, and lifestyle industries, including, among other things, record labels, a recording studio, an apparel line, an alcoholic spirits business, marketing agency, and a television network and media company. Okay, it is also the purpose of the enterprise preserving, protecting, promoting, and enhancing the power, reputation, and brand of Sean Combs, the defendant, as a musician, an entrepreneur, and figure in the entertainment industry, enriching members and associates of the enterprise, including its leader, and in particular those who demonstrated loyalty to Combs and willingness to conceal his crimes. They're making it out like a mafia. This is racketeering 101. Preserving, protecting, promoting, and enhancing the power of Combs' enterprise, including the power of its leader, Combs, through violence, use of firearms, threats of violence, coercion, and verbal, emotional, physical, and sexual abuse. Fulfilling the personal desires of Combs, particularly those related to Combs' sexual gratification, including through the exploitation of women and the use of commercial sex workers. The freak-offs were said to actually hire women, these women that were in his circle that were coerced, and would pay them to come and perform sexual responsibilities during these parties. Okay, which was lots of drugs, firearms, alcohol. Um, and, uh, you know, I'm not going to say how people should party. He says that's the lifestyle. His lawyer pushes back and says like having sex is not a crime. But again, as they are pushing back in this 14-page indictment, the federal government, through a thorough investigation with multiple witnesses, they are saying doing those things to people against their will. Well, that's not exactly the same thing. And doing them all in the support of a criminal enterprise, which is how this indictment is kind of laying out the racketeering charges, are also extremely illegal. Okay. I don't know. Okay. Anyway, let's get down to how they said he did it. Among the means and methods by which Sean Combs and his associate, the defendant, and other members and associates of his enterprise conducted and participated in the conduct of the affairs are, okay, Combs and other members of the enterprise wielded power and prestige, and they would intimidate, threaten, and lure female victims into Combs' orbit, often under the pretense of a romantic relationship. This sounds very Tate-like, although other people are doing it. It also sounds, as Anna had mentioned earlier, very Epstein-oriented in how they're setting this up as like the racketeering in the organization and how they're bringing everybody in. Combs then used force. Combs, they said, then used force and coercion to cause victims to engage in extended sexual acts with male commercial sex workers that Combs referred to as among other things, the freak-offs. Okay, the name freak-offs for these parties in these sessions actually came from Combs. Okay, and it goes on. Okay, freak-offs occurred regularly, sometimes lasted multiple days, and often involved multiple commercial sex workers. And here's the problem. During freak-offs, Combs distributed a variety of controlled substances to victims, in part to keep the victims obedient and compliant, sometimes unbeknownst to the victim. Combs kept videos he filmed of victims engaging in sex acts with commercial sex workers. After freak-offs, Combs and the victims typically received IV fluids to recover from the physical exertion and drug use. Okay. I'm not going to read the whole indictment. Okay. I'm going to let you guys read the rest of the gory details. But I am going to start referring to the statements of Damian Williams in his press conference, because when they talked about the seized assets back in March, when P. Diddy's homes were raided in Miami and in Beverly Hills, they talk about uncovering 90 different cell phones, video equipment, tapes of all of these things, okay? Illicit drugs of all types, firearms of all types, and coercion, all in supporting the affidavits that were given by multiple witnesses on how these parties happened. One of the things that really drew my attention that is had cases of baby oil for these freak offs. Damian Williams refers to this bounty that he had in this storage unit as his freak off supplies, where they kept everything, up to 1,000 bottles of baby oil. Okay, multiple guns, illicit drugs, the kind of drugs that knock you unconscious, and also drugs that will make you more uninhibited, all kinds. When they talk about a myriad of it, they talk about like a lot, a cornucopia of supplies to handle these things. They present it as if this was a common occurrence still going on, that even when they started investigating, that there were still parties happening and there were still events happening. Okay. Um, I do believe when it comes to the extortion, the coercion, the making of money, the distributing of money to try to bolster his empire, the intimidation of witnesses, a lot of that's going to be RICO and racketeering. The fact that he may not get a lot of these assets back. They have not seized properties that I'm aware of yet, but I see it coming. It's basically based on the charges after he is actually, he's been arraigned. I think there's a lot more coming down the pike in regards to that. I know, just the word baby oil is never going to be uh the same to me. And I agree, Juju, just like, just looking at like freak offs, it just doesn't even sound like fun. Yeah, exactly. It's not. Yeah. How did he get away with it for so long? What they're saying is that he got away with it by totally intimidating everybody that was involved. Oh, most of the complaints are about what he did when people wanted to say no or they left. A lot of it was drugs and things being done against people's will, and exactly just using everything against them. And what they are referring to in the indictment is that he didn't do it alone. They are charging him as the head of this organization that was doing it under his direction. And I don't know. It just is very, very involved. And it does just looks like a lot of really, really bad behavior, or not handling things well. I don't think his apology for just saying he has anger management is really going to cover these types of charges, whether he's in therapy or not. Yeah, people keeping their mouth shut. But that's why I say, like, how it started. It started with Cassie Ventura. After a 10-year relationship, she walked away, she got happy. She had some physical problems and she had a lot of mental stress. She needed therapy. But she got well. Okay. And she had an arrangement with Puff over that, from what I understand. And he was paying her a monthly stipend, and then he decided to stop it and he not believe her that she was going to actually do anything about it. And she filed that lawsuit to prove to him that she was better, she was stronger, and it was wrong. And she's not going to be intimidated anymore. And then he agreed to start paying again. But her bravery in laying it all out, in reading her civil suit, is gut wrenching. It has I'm putting a big trigger warning on it for you guys, because it is gut wrenching to know what she went through. To then actually see it physically played out in that short clip that CNN put out of the hotel video, it just brought it all to reality, that we're not just talking about something she thinks happened. We're actually looking at physical evidence of it happening, of his total disregard for her, in just because she left the hotel room, in dragging her back, the control issue, the treating her like a dog, grabbed her by a hair and dragged her down the hallway, kicked her when she was in a fetal position in the hallway. Okay. And then when she went around the corner, then picked up a vase and tried to throw it at her. It is monstrous. I mean, those are issues. I don't think that's just drug fueled hangover or whatever. That didn't look like a lover's spat. That looked like a man who was totally comfortable in his behavior. I mean, he ran out there naked with a towel and socks, you know? So it did, I know I'm extrapolating a little too much opinion on this one, but a case like this, how can you not? How can you not? But again, I will say these are alleged charges, just like all the civil lawsuits, none of them coming through. Now, there was a couple of them he hasn't even addressed, but I do know on the Dickinson case, one of the first ones filed after Cassie Ventura filed her case, which has been settled. Okay. He is trying to get that one thrown out of court. He is, based on the time, based on this, that, and the other thing. He does have a lot to say about Rodney Jones's case also. He's trying to say that even though that happened in 2023, which would show a pattern of you're really not changing your behavior much, Mr. Combs, regardless of this apology based on a 2016 video. If in 2023 you drugged a man, coerced a man, and tried to have him, do things he didn't want to do to benefit for your friends, you know, hmm, that doesn't show any, better behavior, and then to have, you know, Miss Richards, who's been around you for 20 years, okay, come and put this in writing also, to say, I don't want to stay silent. But in answer with Juju is to say, yeah, like let's like these people keeping their mouths shut says to stop. Well, it is in this case in particular. They say they're getting a lot of cooperation with witnesses to the grand jury, which is how the indictment got pushed forward. There was definitely enough for the grand jury to throw down an indictment. It's not easy to do, You have to prove what you think happened. You have to give enough evidence, not like beyond a reasonable doubt, but with enough probable cause that it happened the way the prosecution is saying it happened. And apparently enough people came forward to do that. Okay, they definitely did. It, oh, Choo Choo, does that mean you broke it? Okay, she said, I have anger management issues. It is the Y key on my computer that felt the brunt of it. No Y's for me anymore. I did it to myself. Well, I'm sorry for your Y key, but I applaud your acknowledgement of your anger issues in pursuit that you will be doing something about it, you know. I wonder if they got his videos. Anna, they are saying actually that they did. In the statement from Damian Williams on what was seized from the house, there were multiple videos, equipment, and I do believe tapes, along with those 90s cell phones and stuff like that. And in Rodney Jones's actual civil suit against P. Diddy, he's actually laying out that he was hired and he was told that he had to video everything that happened at these parties. It was one of his responsibilities. And I'm wondering if he also has provided any video of any of that. He also said there was supporting video of everything, along with Cassie Ventura talking about always being videoed and that things that were being done against their will was videoed. And some of this video was used to get people to redo things so that their families weren't told, or it wasn't outed that this happened, that it didn't get leaked in some way. People were doing things they weren't comfortable doing and they feel pressure doing. At least these are the statements of what I will call victims. Okay. These are the statements of the victims saying that they were doing things against their will, they were coerced and forced into it, and there was video evidence that would be used against them. Yes, Diddy filmed his freaks. It is being stated by several of the claimants that one of the big things that turned him on was watching these things happen and having video to look at later about it. The bigger the ego, the more you film. I'm unstoppable. Record it. It's gross. I agree. It is. I'm having issues wrapping my head around the whole thing. I will tell you, sometimes I'll just start to make fun of it and use dark humor and like all of that, and I hope you'll give me grace about it. It's not. I feel for everybody involved in this. I also wonder what it's like for P Diddy right now, sitting in jail behind bars from a huge empire like this to being just like every other prisoner behind bars, waiting to prove his case that he didn't do it. Can you imagine what that feels like? That hollowness inside you. I am hoping that he has the fortitude to be reflecting on the bad behavior. But, I mean, if he built a racketeering empire to force people in the industry to do whatever he wanted, okay? I mean, there's always been rumors, even in the record recording industry, about if you were on his record label, like he was in your videos, he was on your labels and your tracks, whether he did anything or not. Like, it was his. Everything was about him. It was Diddy. Everything was Diddy. Yes, Choo Choo. Rumor does have it that everybody in jail is innocent, and they are until proven guilty. Is a popular statement. Yeah. Gotta wonder if it's the same cell Epstein was in. Yeah, I know. Let's not hope. I hope that doesn't happen. I do not want this overwhelming event. And I have to admit, like, you go to New York, he flies there. And here's the thing, he says that with his lawyer has put out statements that for months they've been negotiating with the prosecutors, turned in his passport, trying to get it not to go to this step. He's been afraid. He has been in fear of this imprisonment on these charges coming forward. Now they're taking a stand that they're going to fight it because it's not true. But they've been trying to work with them all along. And I've been reading that the actual investigative team and the prosecutors are working with Las Vegas too. And that says a lot to me too, because that's been a lot of talk about that, about Keefe D being charged, the only one left alive in the vehicle that shot at Tupac and caused his death, and Suge Knight caused his injuries. The only one alive is being charged. How many years? Almost 30 years after the fact. Okay. And you sit there and you're wondering, he's dropping P. Diddy's name left and right, and saying all this. And he said it from the start. It's on those tapes that the detective released like a long time ago. The reason Keefe D started talking about it because he thought it was okay, because the detective did a book and released the tapes and told everybody what was on them. Why couldn't he? But the detective didn't have the proffer to be quiet. Keefe D did. But anyway, this is how he ends up charged. But now they're talking about a 180-page document of additional information in regards to Tupac's murder, in that P. Diddy has been mentioned over 70 times. I just read that today. There'll be more coming on that when I update in regards to Dwayne Davis, Keefe D's case out of Las Vegas, because that's coming up. Him with his fancy lawyer and all, who did just ask for additional time, as I will be talking about. But I want to get a hold of that document. I'm going to be really trying hard to get that document of 180 pages of additional information in regards to this, mostly because I want to see how it ties in with P. Diddy, and I want to see what they actually think after all this time they actually have on this man, because in the beginning all they said was his own statements. He's the one who said he did it, and that's why we're accusing him and we're prosecuting him, because he said he did it. We'll see. But here's the thing, Sean Combs isn't saying he did it. He's not saying he did any of this. He is admitting to anger management issues. He did that in his apology. Okay. But he has, the reason I showed you all of the other dates for crimes that he's had is like, well, I'll be honest with you. When I put his name into Pacer, I got 10 pages of Sean Combs, civil suits, business suits, his own company, John, releasing him as CEO and getting rid of him. Based on these allegations, he just lost his honorable degree from one of the colleges. He has lost business deals for both the vodka and the tequila company. His empire is crumbling. hopefully he put his money away and he invested it, however. But his name, as far as a mogul and an influencer that could bring in money, well, that regardless of what happens in this criminal case, the civil suits in the media have destroyed that for him already. I don't really see him recovering from that. Do you? I would like to know how you guys feel in the chat, because I really don't think the popular opinion to let him back in his good graces. It's the nature of the allegations that are so heinous. Um, you know, not just his shady business dealings, but the physical aspect. Did they take the key to New York City back yet? Anna, that always bothered me. Like, thank you for bringing it up. Like, that sticks in my craw. But I don't know, but I'll be researching that for the next video. Absolutely, for the next stream. They did take the honorable degree back. Okay. Mrs. Cassandra wants to know about the call with R. Kelly. They're already comparing the charges to R. Kelly. R. Kelly got 30 to life and he ain't getting out. And immediately when he got arrested, people everywhere were referring the case in comparison to Epstein and to R. Kelly. Okay. And we do have a minor mention here. Okay. We do have young women mentioned here, mostly influential or that wanted to be recording artists or work as songwriters in the industry. Okay, very beautiful women. Um, but they say that he's using them as hired sex workers. Some of them, forcing them to do these things because it'll be good for their career to associate with all these people and to do what he wants, and basically the allegation is that he does this all just for his own personal sexual gratification. He's not even making money really on it. These freak off parties don't make money. He spends a lot of money on them to happen as his entertainment, you know and there's several quotes in Dawn Richards' recent filings, which is the last one I read, which is why it's coming to mind so easily. Is that he often would say, like, this is how we party, this is what we do, this is part of the industry, this is, you just got to get used to this. Let me just tell you that again. You just got to get used to this. Let it go. Don't push back, woman. You just got to get used to this. Hmm. I don't know about you guys, but you can just imagine how that makes most women feel. Yes, Mippet, hey, I get it. Yeah, he lost his honorary degree. The one he didn't earn anyway, he just got because he was famous from the area. Don't even get me started, Juju. I hear you. You're in my head like so loud right now with that. It just exploded like a big bomb. I'm like, yeah, he lost his honorary degree. Oh, boo-hoo. Not like he deserved it anyway. It's not like the one statement, and I can't even really speak on it, and I won't, because like I don't really have the place to speak on it because I don't have the intimate knowledge. But when his attorney came out and said that he was a pillar for the black community, I lost my shit because there's been nothing but bad things said about him forever. And I've never seen him do anything that wasn't good for him. I've never seen him do things that was good for other people in general. It's not like he's building people up. I have seen him throughout his career do nothing but tear people down. And so that really stuck, like, in like, what? Like, I hope that others with more right to do so, more personal experience, more education on the subject, will be speaking out about it, because that just hit me like so wrong. It really did. Yeah, Mouse. Yeah, I know, Juju. It just gets me. They actually treating all of and men too, Juju. That's the thing. It wasn't just women. There are several men that are saying this. Our 75 our prison inmate facing 75 years to life, guilty of all these horrible things, is in there saying he was violated against his will by P. Diddy. And it was told he just had to deal with it. That's just the way it is. In Rodney Jones and, others. Um, it's not just women. It just, if he wanted it, that's what he did. This is a real power play. This is a real ego. But let's flip the coin and play devil's advocate for just a moment, because I assure you, I'm not going to give this more than a moment. Not on this case. And I'm usually fair. I'm usually very fair. I mean, when I think my coverage of the Manson case shows that I'm trying to I can be fair about massive accusations of this time. Masterson too, I tried to hold it in for the longest time until the evidence was overwhelming. And here's the thing, Danny Elfman, like being an older man and then this younger woman, like filing this lawsuit, like he coerced her into everything, and all I find out is he never touched her. He asked her to come take a bath because he was already in the bath, and she walked into the bathroom when he was completely naked in the bath. And he said, "Would you like to join me?" And I'm like, how is that a violation of anything? He didn't hold you down. He didn't tie you against your will. He never touched her. Like so I can be fair to men that are accused of this, and I think I have been. I think I really have been. Um, I've seen many cases where men will use their power to coerce you in some way into something. But I do also believe that in some of these cases, it's about it's about whether you make the decision or not. Okay, like some of them are. It depends on how it played out. There's a lot more to it. But in this case, with this history, I am leaning a little bit more to the other way, and I really can't do the coin flip that well, except to say there are so many of these people saying the same thing. But they would have to show me, like they have in other cases, that they organized together to do it. I will say that based on these allegations in the mass media reporting, great damage is being done to his reputation. I doubt it will ever recover. Okay, look what happened to Russell Brand. He actually, there are no charges against him. There are accusations about him acting weird and doing stuff and his reputation took a little bit of a hit. Okay. It is still one of those things that people always think about. Whether he'll recover completely from it, I don't know. I still side eyed it when I'm still looking to hear if the other shoe is going to drop in those allegations. But that's what I mean. Once this stuff all comes out, there's like no turning back. But in this case, we now have criminal charges, which means an investigation happened. Evidence was pulled and looked at and actually deemed credible. And that's where I'm at, people. Once this went criminal, when it was all civil, I was like, okay, that could be a Manson type issue. That could be the destruction of a man's career. I don't know if he did it or not. Maybe he's a lousy guy. But look at this. Like, this is the destruction of his career. But now, after a federal investigation, which goes through multiple steps. It's not like they just take the witness and just go by what they say. They corroborate the witness's statements. They look for backup witness, physical evidence. They look for pattern. Okay. They look for multiple incidences. Okay. His mansion was raided in March per the investigation, and they found enough. Oh no. I'm telling you, this is different. This is a little bit different. They actually, the evidence must be there in some way. Now, the prosecution still has to take it to trial, and they still have to prove their case. And Sean Combs, P. Diddy, and his defense team still have the opportunity to give him his best defense forward and to try to explain these charges of racketeering, sex trafficking, and actually transportation of sex workers. In other words, because there was the crossing of state lines, there's a third charge that he's indicted for because of how he moved people around to perform the sexual dinners. They are looking for digital evidence. In Juju, I believe they said they have it when they raided his mansion. But I do like this comment too. This works for Brand and Elfman and quite a few others. He called me into his bedroom. He was naked. I willingly entered the room. I am violated. So frustrating. Sometimes I can't with people. Exactly. That happened in the Brand case where she said I was, willingly sexual relationship with him. But one time he answered the door naked. I said no, but then I still went into the bedroom. And then when we did what we did, he said he thought I was role playing, but I wasn't. So I left upset. They, I'm not saying that he shouldn't have stopped if she was being resistant, but I'm just saying like this is it. Like you're putting yourself in these situations. Why did she go into the bedroom after that when she knew she didn't want to do it? Also, look at what happened to Rob Lowe. He was at a bar in a state where you had to be 21. He took 2 women home. Age of consent in that state was 14. But because he made a video, exactly, and that's when making a video about it and it kind of got stolen yeah, I remember Mousy. And he was like, and that affected his career also, didn't it? It took him quite some time to come back if he did. Mrs. Cassandra says, I think Louis C.K. lost a lot for masturbating in front of women. That did turn or lead. Yep, he did. He lost a lot of reputation. People still talk about that, don't they? Yes, Anna, AR-15 breakaway guns with no serial numbers, pink cocaine bags. You got it. They got them on drugs. They got them on weapons. They got a lot. And it was all there. Okay. But, it's his mansion and he owns it and he's directly responsible. But they're going to have to prove how he used them and where he did, just the possession of them. Like, this is a big case. A big case. Huge case on multiple levels. Would you not agree, people? It's more than just the intimidation of witnesses. It's more than just the sex trafficking. It is more. It's the illegal use of drugs. It is drugging people against their will. It's coercion. And that is what they're trying to say. This is basically the prosecution. When I read that indictment, and I would like to know what you guys hear about it later. If you read it, any of you, come to me. Please comment on the back of the video. Let's talk about it. Give me some ideas of what to bring up about it next time, because to me, it looks like they're showing a pattern from the start of his career. They're showing a pattern from the start of building this empire and how he did this empire to just get his way, and that it turned into these freak offs, and these were for his own pleasure. And he manipulated his whole enterprise around getting this done and using it to coerce people. He used his empire, his power, his control, his money, his employees. He literally directed people to intimidate others. Yep, it's a big pattern. I agree, Mousy. It's a big pattern of behavior, and it's kind of scary. Yep, Mrs. C, Diddy only cared about Diddy. Mm-hmm. And that's when I said, like on the thumbnail, oh my, did he? Well, it sure appears like he did something. Now it's going to be up to the prosecution to lay it out exactly what he did. But Diddy been up to something? Did he? Yeah, he did. Diddy did a lot. We're going to have to change his name to Diddler. They did it. It's not did he anymore, or did he? It's Diddler. Like, he's been caught diddling in a lot of stuff where he shouldn't. He's been diddling all over the place in illegal activities, allegedly, as stated by the prosecution in a well-crafted indictment. Kind of like right to the point. They make a statement, they give a statute, boom, there it is. Diddler is it, Mrs. Cassandra. Did he be the diddler? I don't even have a question mark after it. Mousy Drake. Now that's a name. Now that's a name I haven't seen associated yet, but like speculation, I get, but why not? Maybe you could do me a favor and draw some lines. Why do you think that? That would be good. And you could put that on a comment later. But Drake's been accused of some stuff too. Yeah. There's rumor. I don't mean accused in civil or criminal cases. I just mean, rumorville media, diss songs, diss songs that I listen to a lot. Yes. I get, yeah, I got a little bit of that in my head. That's why when Eminem's new song came out and he actually changed, like, redid the words and took some massive swipes at Diddy, I was like, he knows what's coming down the pike too. He just wants to make it known. He knows. He knows. Yeah. It does feel like this tangled web is large. And I have had conversations with others as how they feel about that. And I would like you all to think about it too. Do you think this is going the way of Epstein? Do you think like it was kind of organized and he was trying to make his friends happy? I mean, in Rodney Jones's civil complaint, he does mention that a lot of what he was asked to do was for others. He did mention Cuba Gooden Jr., and that P. Diddy was like trying to get favor with him. And so he wanted Rodney Jones to do some stuff with him, because like he kind of liked him. Several people did give credible evidence. One of the young women that was a minor produced a lot of photos of her being on the plane on a private jet with P. Diddy and his entourage on his lap and everything when she was a minor, actually giving credit to some of the things that could have happened. People are coming forth with evidence. Like Rodney Jones says, he had to record everything. He has plenty of evidence that what happened on that yacht, what happened at those parties that he was a part of. Yes, Mrs. Cassandra, I know Eminem's been taking shots at P. Diddy since he started, and as he should have. Believe me, because as I started to say in the beginning, and I'm not accusing, I'm just saying there have been rumors here on the East Coast all along about a lot of this, about him blackmailing people, about him bullying, intimidating, running his business like a thug. Even the way he started his business, being one of the youngest entrepreneurs out there and then just starting his own record company right out from under where he worked. Mm. There's been some actual sexual rumors in regards to P. Diddy and how he started his business. Um, there's been a lot of talk, but talk aren't isn't criminal charges. Talk isn't what proves a case in the court. Okay. But it does appear that in this case, there are quite a few witnesses willing to come forward and back up some of those rumors in some of that talk. And the prosecution seems bent on laying out a case that shows a long history of this. And like I showed you with the civil lawsuits, the events are all spread out. They go back as early as what, 1995, and they end in 2024. It's just nonstop. You know, yeah, I agree. Tangled web. Hmm. Who is being investigated and who is on the payroll so others aren't being investigated? Well, now that he's been charged, assets in regards to keeping those payments to prevent people from being investigated or talking are not going to be going out as freely. Okay. I think one of the that might be a consideration, not only Cassie Ventura just thinking that she is healed and she would like to help others, but perhaps knowing that if he was going to be criminally charged and she knows what she knows, I mean, it's not like she's going to be getting her regular payments anyway. And she may as well do the right thing. I do, there's a lot of people coming forward already, Mousy. Look at that list of civil complaints. And the prosecution did state that they had plenty of witnesses come forward for the grand jury. People were coming forward. I think that all started with one civil lawsuit, one person speaking out and saying, "This happened to me over a 10-year period, and I'm not keeping quiet about it anymore." Even if it did get withdrawn because they settled, it's still out there. And many of the allegations are similar. There are different time periods. Some of them involve people that were in personal relationships with him. Others, it was just not. It was just either they were associated in some way or they were witness to something. It seems to run the gamut. I do know that his three sons did show up for the arraignment. There was no mention of his daughters. Someone did make mention that they weren't there, although I don't know if they went in the back way and were in the court. It is said that at the end of the arraignment, when he did not get bail, that he looked ahead at the judge and took a really long drink from his water bottle. He got up, he looked towards the family at the back of the room, but he said nothing as they took him away in cuffs. The marshals escorted him out, and he will spend the unless released on an overturn at the bond appeal, he will stay in jail until his trial. Okay, so now questions. Questions. I think they knew. I thought it quite odd in the arrangements that the the defense with Mr. Combs put together for the prosecution to bring to the judge in regards to bail. Only the women were listed as family with female family members with the last name Combs that were going to give up their gave up their passports already. And it was stated that he did already also. And he was offering $50 million, okay, and to list one of his properties up as collateral, including his mother's home, in that he wasn't going to be a flight risk. Like, he was trying to make the case, like, don't lock me up. Like, I'm not going to be a flight risk, because I think he knows he needs to be free to manage this case. I think there might be a control thing there. I'd be terrified to not have control of my case. I really would. I'd be absolutely terrified to be sitting in jail and have to depend on my lawyer on what's going on outside and not have any access to anything. Can you imagine what that is like, knowing your future freedom, perhaps your life is on in the balance right now? Okay, it's got to be incredibly uncomfortable. Oh, another little quick note on Law and Crime. While I was watching it, you'll never believe who appeared up there giving statements about what was going on. Mauricio Padillo. Yes, Sarah Boone's previous attorney, the one that was with her the longest before he decided to take a hike. The one that had originally contacted Julie Harper for the, you know, suspected battered spouse syndrome. Okay, and then didn't file for it before court, even though court was just 2 weeks away when he left. It is, mm, as I've said before, my sneaky suspicion that had a lot to do with he and Sarah developing irreconcilable differences and him deciding he didn't want to get treated that way anymore. But anyway, it was nice to see him up there. He was very well spoken. So if you watch it, you'll see. I might grab a clip of it to show you what he looks like at the next Boone update, which I do have some stuff to tell you about tomorrow. We're going to be doing that. And so, let's just check for some questions. Very good question. Claire, would you be writing letters so scared? No, I don't mean like Boone. I meant like Diddy. Not being able to coerce people and intimidate people and use my money to get out of it. Like, no. And I definitely would not be doing the Boone part either and just write letters to the judge. No, no. Get my fans to do a GoFundMe for to get me out on bail 4 years later instead of get me to hire a good lawyer, you know. This is true, Mousy. It is better that P. Diddy is in jail, and I'm sure that that's what the judge's concern was, is so he could not intimidate witnesses. She saw a clear pattern there. She had enough to go by history on what he's done and what he was accused of to know how he's going to behave. She made a good call. I really do think so. Yep. Oh, no. Be safe, Mousy. If he did all that, he would put up his mother's home. That irks me. Exactly. He did. He put his mother's home in the statement that they released. I think it's on I think it's on Twitter, but I did put it here. It might be a little small if you can make it bigger, but it is part of the slideshow I showed what the attorney had presented for the case at the arraignment to get bail. But I think on that, I'm going to sign off then before I hit the 2 hours. Can you believe I did almost 2 hours on Diddy? Wow. Mrs. Cassandra, just let me know. Are you happy that I finally did it? Like, I finally did it. Yeah, how dare he put up his mother's house? Exactly, Anna, Mrs. Cassandra, I hear you. That's just rude. That's just absolutely, how could he put her house at risk knowing what the charges are? You know, it finally went legal, Juju. Yup, I finally got the diddler for you, Mrs. Cassandra. Yes, yes, we finally got the diddler. It went criminal. So we're going to be talking about it here and there. I wonder how fast this is going to be. Well, we'll see. But anyway, I will be back tomorrow about 4 o'clock. If for any reason the internet plays up again, it seems to have a lot of fun on Wednesdays, doing the up and down thing with the yellow and the red and the green. If for any reason I'll reschedule the Friday before our other one, I'll make it early. But I should be back tomorrow. Tomorrow at 4 Eastern Standard. Good night, everybody. Thank you to my mods. Thank you to everybody that contribute to the conversation. Thank you to everybody who watches later. Please do the YouTube things. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. We are heading towards that magical number for the end of the year, which I really hope we make so that we can have some type of celebration. I do hope to get some suggestions on what kind of celebration for 5,000 subscribers there should be. I don't know. I don't know. There is a lunar eclipse tonight. Oh, Juju says we all need to get outside, and I believe everybody hug the moon. Hug the moon tonight. Don't forget, like, share, comment. I want to hear your questions. I want to hear, hey, do you like the new presentation? Do you like the new look? Like, talk to me, people. Tell me what you like, what you don't like. I could take the criticism. Oh, I know you're going to bring the mayhem, Mrs. Cassandra, and I look forward to it. I look forward to it a lot. Would everybody get out, hug the moon, do what you need to do, and I will see you all tomorrow. Thank you again.